The market smelled of oil, sweat, and despair. Under the canopy of the Dominion's trade hub, lines of the desperate stood waiting, beings of dozens of species, their heads bowed, their wrists bound. Officially, it was called indenture. Unofficially, everyone knew it was slavery. Kaylin clutched her daughter's hand as the line shuffled forward. The Zerani woman kept her chin high, though her wings sagged with exhaustion. Her husband had been taken by the wars. Her homeworld burned. And now, with no credits left to her name, she and her child were to be sold. Elira, no more than 9 cycles old, looked up with wide, hungry eyes. "Mama," she whispered, "what if no one wants us?" Kaylin squeezed her hand tighter, forcing steel into her voice. "Then we will endure. We always endure." But inside, dread coiled like a serpent. No one wanted a mother with a child. Buyers sought miners, fighters, laborers, workers who could be broken. A woman who baked bread and a child who dreamed of warmth were worth little here. The auction platform loomed ahead. Voices rang out, harsh and hollow. Lot 39, Zerani female, skilled in domestic services. With minor offspring. Opening bid, 500 credits. Silence. The crowd shifted. A few sneers. A few laughs. 400, the auctioneer barked. 350? 300. No hands rose. Kaylin's chest tightened. If no bid came, she and Elira would be sent to the labor camps. She had heard the stories. None returned. And then, before she could think, Elira stepped forward. Her small voice cut through the jeers. "Please. Someone buy my mom. She'll cook you the best meals, better than anyone. She makes soup that makes you feel warm inside, and bread that smells like home. Please, she's worth so much more than you think." The crowd fell silent. Some laughed cruelly, others muttered. But no one lifted a hand, until one man rose from the shadows at the back. "I'll take them," he said. His voice was deep, steady. "Human. 200 credits." Heads snapped toward him. Murmurs swept through the hall. Humans were newcomers, strange creatures with stubborn hearts. Why would one waste credits on a Zerani widow and child? The auctioneer blinked, then slammed his gavel. "Sold." Kaylin's breath caught. Elira clung to her hand, eyes wide with hope. The human walked forward, his coat heavy with rain and dust. His gaze was calm, almost gentle. "Name's Jack Turner," he said. "Come on. You're safe now." They followed him in silence through the station's grim corridors, their chains cut loose, but their fear still clinging like a second skin. Jack led them to a battered freighter docked on the outer ring. The ship's hull bore scars of travel, but its engines hummed with life. "This is the Wayfarer's hope," Jack said, gesturing them inside. "She's not pretty, but she'll take you places." Kaylin stopped at the threshold. "We are indentured," she said, voice sharp with pride. "What do you require of us?" Jack frowned as though the question itself were strange. "Require? Nothing. I bought you so no one else could. You don't owe me a thing." Kaylin stiffened. "That is not how indenture works." "That's how it works on my ship," Jack replied simply. Elira tugged her mother's hand. "Mama, can we stay? Please." Kaylin's throat tightened. She gave a small nod. The days that followed were strange. Jack treated them not as property, but as passengers. He gave them quarters, clean clothes, and food, though the rations were bland. Out of habit, Kaylin took to the galley. The first meal she cooked filled the ship with rich aromas, stewed root vegetables, spiced broth, and fresh-baked bread. Jack sat at the table, blinking in surprise as the flavors touched his tongue. "Elira wasn't exaggerating," he said with a grin. "This is incredible." Kaylin felt her cheeks warm. It is just food. No, Jack said firmly. It's more than that. It feels like home. Weeks turned into months. Jack hauled cargo between colonies, his ship a lifeline for settlements scraping by on the edge of civilization. Kaylin cooked for him and Elira, not because she had to, but because it gave her purpose. Her meals became the ship's heart, turning metal corridors into a place of belonging. Elira thrived, learning to navigate the stars, helping Jack repair panels, giggling at his dry humor. The child who once begged strangers now laughed freely, her hope reborn. Kaylin, watching her daughter glow again, felt a gratitude too deep for words. But not all journeys were safe. One night, raiders descended on their trade route. The Wayfarer's hope shuddered as weapons fire grazed the hull. Jack manned the controls, his jaw set. "Strap in," he barked. Kaylin held Elira close as the ship pitched. Raiders hailed them, demanding surrender. Jack's eyes burned with defiance. Not a chance. Through sheer will and cunning, he outmaneuvered them, sending the freighter diving through an asteroid field. The raiders broke off, unwilling to risk further pursuit. When silence returned, Kaylin stared at him. "You risked everything for us." Jack gave a tired smile. "No one gets left behind on my watch." On a frontier colony months later, Kaylin's cooking drew attention. A merchant who sampled her spice bread wept with joy. Word spread quickly. The human hauler who traveled with a Zerani cook brought meals that felt like warmth itself. Soon, colonies began requesting not just cargo but Kaylin's food. They paid in credits, supplies, favors. The Wayfarer's hope became more than a freighter. It became a vessel of survival and comfort. Kaylin realized then, Elira's desperate cry had not only saved them, it had created something new. A home. A purpose. One evening, as the stars stretched endless outside the viewport, Kaylin said softly, "I do not understand humans." Jack raised an eyebrow. "That's fair. We're complicated. You bought us, freed us, risked your life for us. Why?" He shrugged, but his eyes were warm. Because it was the right thing to do. Because no child should have to beg strangers to save her mom. Because sometimes kindness is all we've got to fight the dark. Kaylin's chest ached. Once she had been nothing but despair. Now, because of one human's choice, she had hope again. Years later, stories spread of the human trader and the Zerani cook who traveled the stars with their laughing child. Colonists spoke of meals that tasted of home, of kindness carried in the hold of a battered freighter. Kaylin never forgot the auction hall, the silence, the humiliation. But what stayed with her most was the moment one human rose and said, "I'll take them." With those 3 words, everything had changed. She had been bought, yes, but not as property. She had been bought back into life. And through kindness, she found home among the stars.